Hi, I'm Amy Romeo, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to make this Santa bow purse charm using faux leather, heat transfer vinyl, and a Cricut. Now I'm calling it a purse charm because it has a big clasp that you can use to hook onto your purse strap, but you could also hang it from a backpack or anywhere else you'd like. So I'll be using the Cricut Maker today to make this, but you can use any of the current Cricut machines, including the Cricut Joy, because they all cut faux leather using the standard fine point blade. I have the SVG file for this project, and I will leave a link to it for you if you want to craft along with me. And I'll also have links to all of the tools and materials I'll be using for this project. So I'm going to go over them quickly here, and then we'll talk about them a little bit more as we go through the tutorial. So this project is made of red faux leather for all of the bow parts. It's finished on the back, and then we have some heat transfer vinyl accents. We also have a little rivet. This is a 6mm rivet, and then we have this D-ring clasp to make it a purse charm. So the faux leather that I'm using is just some solid red on a sheet. You can also use faux leather on a roll. And then I have a small piece of black faux leather for the band, the belt part here. If you don't have black faux leather, you can use red faux leather as the base and then press some black heat transfer vinyl onto it to create a little black piece for that band. Then the heat transfer vinyl I'm using, just some white glitter and some gold glitter. I also have some blue painter's tape, and this is going to help me get good cuts with the faux leather. Now I'll cut the faux leather with the purple strong grip Cricut mat and the heat transfer vinyl with the green mat. And to press the heat transfer vinyl onto the faux leather, I'll use my Easy Press Mini. You can also use a regular Easy Press or heat press. I have a heat pressing pad, a cover sheet to protect my surface while I'm pressing, a weeding tool of your choice. I have some small curved scissors, and then I'm using fabric glue. Beacon Fabri-Tac is my preferred fabric glue. This is going to be the glue that I use to glue the backing on this purse charm together. And then I also have some hot glue, and the hot glue is going to be used to assemble the bow. And I'm using a Surebonder cordless hot glue gun. I love this one, and I really like the mini Gorilla glue sticks, so I'm using those. And then that little rivet, the 6mm rivet, and we'll use the little rivet tools that come with the rivet hardware. So let's go ahead and hop into Design Space. I'll show you the template for this project, and then we'll get started. Starting with a blank canvas in Cricut Design Space, you'll click on Upload, and then Upload Image, and you'll browse to where the unzipped SVG file for this project is saved on your device. Click on it to select it, and then click Open. You'll see a preview of the SVG template for this project. Click Continue, and then Upload. So everything you see in red on your canvas is going to cut from the red faux leather. Now the white is going to cut from that white heat transfer vinyl of your choice, as is this little glitter gold area here. And I want to ungroup these just to show you about the little Santa belt part. So this is our little gold square, and then this shape you can either cut from black faux leather or you can cut from red faux leather. And if you cut it from red faux leather, you'll want to also cut a copy of this shape and cut it from black heat transfer vinyl. So if you wanted to do that, you would just duplicate that shape, leave one of them black so you can cut that one from heat transfer vinyl, and then this shape you'll want to color the same color as the red on the mat so that it gets cut from red faux leather. I hope that makes sense. I'm going to show today how to make it using black faux leather though, so I will go ahead and just undo that process. So you don't need to make any changes to the size of these pieces. We will just go ahead and click the Make It button. We're cutting our materials on a mat. And the first thing you want to do is go through and toggle the mirror button on for each mat, because faux leather and heat transfer vinyl cut in reverse. So we'll come back to this mat. Let me click here on my heat transfer vinyl mats and see how this is pushed all the way up into this top left corner of our mat. I like to bring it down just a little bit, and the reason I do that is it gives me a little more breathing room when the clear carrier sheet is cut from around the shape, and I'll show you what I mean when we're pressing. So I'm going to do that with all of my little shapes here. Just drag them away from the edges of the mat and away from each other a little bit. Now we'll go back down to our faux leather mat, and what I like to do with this one is be a little more efficient with the shapes that are going to cut from the faux leather. I'm just going to rotate that one there so that it's nestled up against the bow, and that way we don't lose a lot of faux leather. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click continue. The faux leather mat I will cut using the faux leather paper thin setting with more pressure. I'll cut the black faux leather mat with the same setting. And then for the 2 heat transfer vinyl mats, I'm going to use the manufacturer's recommended cut setting for the type and brand of heat transfer vinyl that I'm using. Okay, so we're all set to start cutting out our mats. Let's hop back over to our overhead camera and we'll begin. So I'm all set to cut out my faux leather mat first. I'm just going to take my piece of faux leather and turn it over so it's pretty side down on my purple strong grip mat. I'm just going to rub this really well with my hands all over the back. And then I'm going to use some blue painter's tape. You can reuse these little pieces, so I'm using some from another project. I'm just going to tape this down on all sides. And this is going to help keep our faux leather from shifting while the blade is cutting through, which is going to help us get a really nice cut. So we already have our faux leather paper thin cut setting with more pressure ready to go. So I just need to load the mat into the machine and begin the cut. So the cut has run one time, and I like to use a sharp weeding tool and just lift up the edge of one of the cuts, see if the cut went all the way through, and if it did, you can go ahead and load the mat and remove your shapes, or if you need to, you can just press the cut button again to repeat the exact same cut, and you can do that as many times as you need to as long as you haven't unloaded the mat. But I'm going to go ahead and remove this mat and pick up the shapes, and I'll kind of walk you through what we've got here. So this is the base of our bow. It will fold over like this. We'll have the hardware here in the middle, and then we'll glue this front to back. This is going to create our base, and then this is going to be our little loop here, and this is going to be folding over like this to create those bow loops. And then our third piece of faux leather, which will wrap around, it's either your black faux leather or red with black heat transfer vinyl. That's going to create the little Santa belt effect. Okay, so those are our little bow parts. I'm going to return to Design Space and cut out the other 3 mats in this project, my black faux leather and my 2 heat transfer vinyl layers, and then we will come back and we will start assembling our bow. So I'm all set to start heat pressing the vinyl onto the faux leather shapes. But before we do that, I wanted to make sure that you use a sharp weeding tool and locate the little holes that are in this pattern that are for the little rivet. And if you poke it through and the little hole doesn't come all the way out, then you can just trim that with some little curved scissors. So you've got 2 holes on this pattern, 1 on each side. And again, we'll just trim that up. You can also use these curved scissors, just if you see any little fuzzies on the edge of your cut, you can use these to trim that up. So what I have now is my Easy Press Mini set on the low setting, which is that first green line. If you're using a regular Easy Press or regular heat press, I recommend setting it to 265 degrees Fahrenheit to press heat transfer vinyl onto faux leather. So the first thing I'll press is the little Santa belt part, and this is the piece that I cut from black. And I have my heat transfer vinyl buckle that I'm going to put on top. Now, if you cut a red piece of faux leather and then you have also a black piece of heat transfer vinyl, you'll need to press that black onto the little belt here before you press the buckle. So I'm just going to put this on my heat pressing pad, line up the little buckle. So once you have the buckle in position, you'll just cover with whatever cover sheet you're using and press. You want to press for about 10 seconds with even pressure. So what I'm going to do is hold this faux leather nice and flat with my finger and very carefully and slowly peel back the clear carrier sheet. If when you're peeling your heat transfer vinyl lifts or makes a wrinkle, you can just stop your rolling and just place it right back down and cover and press some more. But that looks pretty good. So I'm going to just pop this underneath my heat pressing pad to let it cool nice and flat. And then we will move on to the little white tips on the bow. So these, you'll make sure that you have your left and your right going the right direction. It doesn't matter which side you do because both of these sides are symmetrical. So again, I'm just going to line this up, cover and press. So there we go, that looks good. Again, I'll just put this underneath my heat pressing pad to let that cool nice and flat. While that's cooling, I'm gonna take a minute and just get ready to start the gluing process so I can show you those steps. Now we have all of our heat transfer vinyl pressed onto the faux leather. It's time to start gluing the different elements of this bow project. So I'll let you know as we go why I'm using the fabric glue for some steps and why I'm gonna use the hot glue for other steps. But our first step is going to be to take this D-ring clip here and just kind of roll up one end of our bow here and just slide this on. It's really important that you do this before you glue the front and the back of this bow shape together for the base. And when you get it on, make sure you turn it so that the clip is on the outside. Okay, so now what we're going to do is glue this front to back. And you can see in my example here how I was able to get a really nice tight finish, an edge here on this part, the background of the bow shape. You see that? Now what I could do is cover up that white with a little bit of a red Sharpie, so I will probably do that. But I want to get this nice and flat, and the best way to do that is by using Fabri-Tac, in my opinion. If I was to use hot glue for this step, you'd see some lumps and bumps underneath this base part, and we don't want that. So now that I have my little D-ring hardware here, I'm just going to open this up, take my Fabri-Tac, and I'm going to apply my glue. So I'm actually going to go a little bit here around the hole there for the rivet. We're not going to apply the rivet yet, but we do want to glue around the hole a little bit. And then I'm just going to draw a glue line all around the edges here. You want to get right up to the edge, but not all the way. And that's because this glue is going to seep to the edges really nicely and create that firm seal. So I'm just gluing all over the back of this. Now, if you're not going to use Beacon Fabri-Tac, I recommend using something like Barely Art Glue. Just keep in mind that that will absorb a little more than this does into the back of the faux leather. So you might go through and apply all your glue, and then you might have to go back and do a second pass of glue application to get some glue that will stick to the other side. Okay, so this is all covered with glue. Make sure your little hardware is out of the way. We're just going to fold this over and match up the front and the back. Now, as you're matching up the front and the back, you want to match all those sides, and then you also want to make sure that your little hole is lining up here at the top for that rivet. So just take a minute. You can kind of smush this back and forth. That's another nice thing about the Fabri-Tac is it gives you some play. Now, if you get any glue that seeps out of the side, you can just wipe it up with your fingers. This is the front, so we're going to check from the front, make sure it looks pretty. And that looks pretty good. So we're not going to apply that rivet, as I mentioned. What we're going to do now is put this underneath a heavy book, and we're going to let that dry, that glue dry nice and firm for about an hour. So while that is gluing, I can go ahead and start working on the next part of the project, which is going to be this little second part of the bow. So for this, I'm going to use my hot glue gun. And that's because this part of the bow really needs to be made with a glue that's going to dry very quickly. This is not a glue that's going to dry quickly. Now, if you were using Fabri-Tac, you could always clip the pieces together to have them glue better, but it's kind of hard to clip a project like this in a way that's going to have it dry really well. So for flat areas that we want to glue with faux leather, I recommend Fabri-Tac. For areas that we need to glue and dry quickly, I recommend using a hot glue gun. Again, these are the Gorilla Glue mini hot glue sticks. So you're going to take your little bow shape like this. See how one side of it kind of goes up, the edges go up a little bit like a smile. That's the way you want to have these little edges. Flip it over, and then we're going to take this side and we are going to glue it so that this part of the bow matches, so the front curve matches the back curve on both sides. So that means that this little spot here that overlaps, this is where we're going to apply our glue. So I'll just take my hot glue here, kind of put a little bit of hot glue here. And then take this tab, fold it over, and then I just hold it for a few seconds so that that dries. If a little glue just comes out, you can just peel that off. See how that looks? Okay, so now we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Just be careful with the heat. Just kind of hold that firmly. There we go. And then so your bow, remember how it was kind of going up that way? Your bow is angled just a little bit up. Okay, great. So now the next part that we're going to do is we're going to attach the little Santa belt. So for this, we want to make sure that our belt here is in the front. So I'm going to apply a little more hot glue right here in the center. And I like to get this lined up first so that I know that it's nice and straight before I start wrapping it around the back. So we just have a little glue there. So again, if you used Fabri-Tac on this part, you would need to then put a clip here. And anytime you clip faux leather, it has the tendency to leave little clip marks. And then you'd also need to clip the back, and this whole thing would also be, you know, need to clip as well. So it would be difficult to clip this instead of just using the hot glue. Okay, so now that we have this like this, we're just going to bend these over, and you don't want to pull it too tight, because if you pull it really tight, then you kind of lose that little black part of the belt. So I'm actually going to let that prop up just a little bit. See how I have it on the sample? You can kind of see the top and the bottom of the black, but that's just my preference. So I'm going to go in the back here, and I'm going to apply a little bit of glue back here, and also a little bit of glue here. And we'll just fold this over. Let me wipe away this glue. So now I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And I want to make sure I flip it over before that glue really dries. And there we go, that looks really cute. So now let's pretend that our little bow here has been drying underneath the book for an hour. What we're going to do next is apply that rivet very quickly. So the rivet has a post end here, and it also has a cap. So the cap is only the circle. So that's the cap and that's the post. Doesn't matter which end you put on first, but I'm going to use the post side and just push it from the front to the back through the hole. Comes through the back. I'm going to put that little cap on the other side, just like that. And then if you wanted to leave it like that, you could, or you can use the little rivet hardware that comes with the rivet set. This is the little strike plate. It's a metal piece, and we're going to just put the rivet on top of the metal piece. And then you should have a little hammering tool here. One end is flat, this is for hammering, and one end is concave that fits over the rivet. So I'm just going to put this over the rivet, and I'm going to hammer about 6, 7, or 8 times. And then now that little rivet is secure, and all we need to do is glue on our little bow front here. So again, I like it to go up. This little bow part goes up. And again, this is another reason that hot glue is really good for this, because we want to glue here in the center and then both of these sides here where the bows are on the back. So that would be very hard to glue and clip with Fabri-Tac. So I'm just going to put some glue here in the middle. And I'm also going to do a line of glue here and a line of glue here. And then we'll just pop this into place. First press the center part. And then I like to put my fingers in the loop and just press down those parts. And that's that. Isn't that cute? So here's another look at the finished Santa bow purse charm. I really hope you like this project and you're going to try making one of these yourself. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.